The other interesting thing about this too is that the 12 phases of transition happen regardless of how somebody dies. So if somebody dies instantly, like in the case of a homicide or suicide, they go through the 12 phases instantly.
Really?
Remember, time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Or if it's very prolonged, like days, weeks, months, even years.
All right, guys, got psychic Julie Ryan here today. Very excited for this one. Thanks for coming out to Vegas.
My honor. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know you've been doing a lot of videos on all the fires going on where you're at. Is everything okay now?
In Alabama?
In Cali.
No, I live in Birmingham,
okay.
Alabama.
So you were just doing videos on the fires on your YouTube, right?
No.
Oh, no live streams?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that must have been someone else. Okay. Yeah, it's just been crazy seeing what's been going on there, though.
I have a son who lives there, and they had to evacuate. So I've been talking about it on my show.
Oh, so that's what
you're
that's
thinking
what I saw.
of. Yeah, but I haven't done any live streams.
Got it. Yeah. How's your son doing? Better?
He's great. They're back in their home and no damage.
Nice.
So everything's
yeah. You go live on YouTube every couple of days, right?
Thursday night. Thursday night at 8 Eastern. And then we release 3 other shows. So we do 4 shows a week on Ask Julie Ryan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done. You're a workhorse.
It is. It's fun.
The grind doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's fun.
What's the goal with the show? You just do questions, or what's the format?
Well, it's to help people blend spirituality and practicality to live a life of purpose and joy. And it's all the same. You know, the spirituality is there, whether people realize it or not. And we all need to involve practicality in our day-to-day lives just to get things done. So it works great. It's a little bit of a different format just because of my background.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in the health and healing part too.
Yeah. I know you talk a lot about healing on the show. I love that because a lot of people have these health conditions, right?
Right.
And Western medicine isn't really fixing it. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well, I think that it's part of the healing equation. Certainly we healers, I do have a medical intuitive and energy healer. We, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, it's all part of the healing equation. So I'm like a human MRI, Sean. I learned how to do this stuff and I teach people all over the world. So I can see inside people's bodies. I can see broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, stuff like that. And then I facilitate energetic healing because we all heal ourselves. Nobody heals anybody else. You know, you think about it, you go to the emergency room with a big cut in your leg. Well, they're going to stitch it up. The doctor will stitch it up for you, but they don't make your skin grow back. You make your own skin grow back. And that's how all this works.
I love that.
So I do the energetic side. So the healing's already happened on the energetic level and then it integrates into somebody's body.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I tried Reiki healing the other month.
Yeah.
First time ever. I was a little skeptical, but I felt better after, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, my analogies are really fun. I'm an inventor of surgical devices sold throughout the world and former manufacturer and a serial entrepreneur in other industries. And so some of the healings that I get to see, Sean, are similar to what I saw in the operating room for decades, developing new products, testing prototypes, things like that. And then sometimes I see healings where something will be removed, something will be added. I watch procedures that haven't been invented yet with devices that haven't been invented yet.
Whoa.
I see stem cell energy regenerate whole organs.
What?
That sometimes show up on subsequent scans.
That's crazy.
And that's really fun when that happens. And over the years, I've had doctors call me and say, "What are you doing? And how does this stuff work?" So it's really fun. I get to see new things all the time.
So
and I think, how many new things are there? And I'll see new things, you know, sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes often, you know, during the week, because I work with a lot of people from around the world. And it's every day is new. It's every person. It's a new adventure.
That is beautiful. I love that you're doing that for people. Stem cells regrowing an organ. I have not heard that one before.
I watch a mold. Like if we're regrowing a liver, I'll watch a mold. I'm a manufacturer of surgical devices, so plastics mold, injection mold, blow mold, something like that. I'll watch the stem cell energy go in. I'll watch the kidney get generated. I'll watch the diseased kidney get removed, you know, the plumbing get clamped off, and then I'll watch the new kidney get installed, the plumbing get hooked up. And then it's so funny because when a new organ starts up, it sounds like a diesel engine to me.
Mm.
It's like somebody started up a Harley or something outside.
Wow.
And then I know it's running and then I can see it running.
That's cool.
It's really amazing.
I just learned with organ transplants, actually, you're actually inheriting the other person's memory, right?
That's right.
So when you get a new heart, you start inheriting the previous owner's memories.
Yeah. Well, I've heard of that too. I've generated spirit working through me and with me to help the person heal. But I've seen many, many times, just saw it a couple of days ago, where new ovaries were generated for a woman that was having issues with her fertility.
Wow.
And it's all her DNA. It's just that she's now got the eggs of a 15-year-old instead of a 45-year-old.
Beautiful.
And I have several clients who have had children after that healing has happened. It's just phenomenal.
That's incredible, because there's a lot of fertility issues right now.
Right.
A lot of people experiencing problems having kids.
Yeah.
You know, is that due to the food, you think, mainly?
I think we're waiting longer to try and conceive,
right.
Especially women, because we want our careers established first. And I was 33 when I had my son 32 years ago. And
wow.
At that point, I was living in Los Angeles, and my OB said I was the youngest delivering mom in her practice.
What?
That was in the early 90s.
At 33?
Yeah, and the ages have just gone up since then.
That's wow. 33 is a master number. Are you into numerology too?
A little bit. Just, when you add them together, what you get.
Yeah.
And primarily what's in the Bible. Not that I'm a Bible thumper, but I find it fascinating, how many numbers are in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they used it for continuity in the stories and the parables to keep some semblance of what the original story was, because people were illiterate, up until recently.
That's cool that you balance the Bible with the spiritual side, because I know sometimes there's a divide, right, with the two worlds.
Regardless of what the religion or the culture or the philosophy is, it's all the same thing. It's all coming from source. It's all about love. It's all the same thing. It's just a different flavor.
Yeah. When was the first time you connected to source? Were you pretty young?
No, I did not have dead people chasing me as a kid.
No imaginary friends?
No. I learned how to do this stuff in my mid-30s.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm an inventor and an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm a businesswoman.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in any of this stuff. And so a girlfriend gave me a book called Anatomy of the Spirit. And it's by Carolyn Mace. And she calls herself a medical intuitive. And I'd never heard that word before. And I thought, what the heck is that? And so I went to a bookstore, because we didn't have the internet yet, and found another book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, who's a former NASA physicist, who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles into understandable English, that with regard to healing. And so I read that and I wanted to know more. And I called her school and I said, you guys got anybody in my area teaching this stuff? And she said, yeah, we do. We have a graduate. And so I studied with her for years and paid the equivalent of an MD or a PhD. And all along, Sean, my family and friends were saying, why are you doing this? I said, I don't know. I said, what are you going to do with it? Again, I don't know. I was just led. I was interested in it. And what I found out was, once I was able to connect with spirit, you can do it all. You can do healing. You can talk to dead people. You can talk to spirits of people who are still alive. You can talk to pets. You can do past life stuff, tell how close to death somebody is, spirit guides, angels, the whole 9 yards. I don't understand why it's siloed.
Yeah.
You got the pet psychics and the medical intuitives and the mediums. It's like, connect with spirit. You can do it all. So that's what I teach.
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
So
I call it my buffet of psychicness.
Yeah. And do you believe everyone has these abilities?
I know everybody has these abilities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see it with certain people, their family was pretty spiritual, like their mother, and kind of gets passed on, right?
Yeah. Everybody has the ability. Here's an example. Have you ever thought of somebody and then you get a text from them or an email or a phone call, or you run into them?
Yeah.
And you think, what a coincidence. There's no coincidence there. That's your telepathic abilities at play. Or you get a gut feeling about doing something and you think, from a logical standpoint, that doesn't make sense. And so you go against what your gut feeling is. most of the time you wish you would have followed your gut feeling. That's all our intuition. Everybody has the ability.
That is cool.
It's just a matter of enhancing and developing and enhancing it.
Yeah, there's levels to it, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of recognizing it too. Most people discount it. They say, oh, it's just my imagination.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'm curious what energy you pick up on in Vegas. I heard it's pretty dark on the strip.
Nah, I don't find that.
You don't think so?
Nah. High energy. Yeah, you go into those places and the slot machines are dinging and the lights are flashing. It's high energy. People, for the most part, people are having fun and they're there on vacation, at least on the strip, and they're going to amazing restaurants and they're shopping in amazing stores and they're there with their friends and they're just having a ball.
I love it. Have you come across any low energy stuff, any hauntings like that?
Yeah. Lots of them. But there's no such thing as evil spirits. Ghosts are just people that are choosing to have one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the human world. And they're experiencing, exploring what that's all about. So, yeah, we can talk to them. I have a really fun story about one.
Please.
May I share it?
Yeah.
One of my girlfriends several years ago, and I didn't know her yet. She told me the story. So like in a football game, you can do an instant replay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's no time in the spirit world. So you go back or forwards or whatever. So anyways, so she was telling me this story about there was a night when there was an evil spirit coming through her front door. And I said, what? Evil spirits don't exist. And she said, no. This looked like, it was distorted, looked like an evil spirit. And I said, okay, tell me about it. And then I'm back doing an instant replay and watching this. And so she said, I got up, I got my son's golf club that was in the umbrella stand next to the front door, and I was going to take a swing at it and say, you're not welcome in this home. What I saw when I did the instant replay was, do you remember, have you ever watched an old movie where bank robbers would put pantyhose over their face just to hide their appearance so that they couldn't figure out who they were?
I've seen the black beanies, but not that.
Yeah. They used to take pantyhose or a stocking, and it would distort their image. So that's what this spirit looked like. But her front doors were very thick. And so as the spirit was coming through, his face looked distorted. All right, like a bank robber with pantyhose on its face. And so we got his name, we got where he was. It turned out he was a Confederate soldier who died in the war. And he was looking for his daughter. Well, his daughter had reincarnated as my girlfriend's daughter.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we got enough information that we were able to corroborate it with historic documentation online. And we got the guy's name, his birth certificate, the daughter's name, the whole
What?
Yeah, it's really fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, reincarnation's a fascinating topic. I've done some past life therapy,
Yeah.
And it's just mind-blowing how you can...
I do it all the time, but I don't regress people. I do what I call a past life scan.
What's that?
I'm a businesswoman. Cut to the chase, right? Let's just get it done.
Okay, so you do past life scans. What is that?
I do. I envision myself, Sean, in this endless hallway, very narrow walls, very tall ceilings. And the walls covered in 12-inch by 12-inch square mirrors. Each mirror represents a different lifetime. So let's say you have a question. Do I have any past lives that have led me to be interested in working in the media business in this lifetime? The mirrors that correlate with that question, Sean, will come out from the wall as if they're on a hydraulic arm. And then I'll say, show me the one that correlates the most. That one will come out the farthest, and I'll envision walking into it, and I'll be shown where it was, when it was. We'll get a lot of other information. Oftentimes we can corroborate it and validate it with online historic data.
Wow.
And then we'll relate it to what's happening in your current life. And it's fascinating how there's a running script that continues throughout multiple lifetimes. And we're looking at that basic script from a different perspective, different time, different place, different gender, different set of circumstances, same basic script.
So why is it important for people watching this to explore their past lives, you think?
It's just if they're interested. It doesn't really matter that much. But what it can do is it can give us information about why are you interested in certain things? Why does something continue to show up in your life? I use the analogy of Hamlet. You think about Shakespeare wrote Hamlet in 1602. Well, how many times has that been performed between now and then? Who knows?
Yeah.
Same script, different perspective. Where was it? When was it? What language? What was happening in the world? What was the interpretation? Who were the actors? Who was the set designer? All those different variables come in to give us a different perspective on this same basic script. And we have many scripts that we come in to explore and experience in each lifetime.
Yeah.
And so that's why past lives, they're fun as much as anything.
I had some crazy ones. I don't know about you. I think we all did though, because the average person has hundreds, right?
Thousands.
Thousands?
If not more.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long have humans been here? You start to wonder, right?
Long time. And they're not all just human past lives. Too.
Right.
They can be in galaxies far, far away.
Yeah. Alien lives, pet lives. Some people remember being plants, right?
Yeah.
I had one guest remember being a rock.
Oh, like a pet rock. That was the thing.
Just a rock. Yeah. He was a rock. And he said he remembered it. So
how funny.
Maybe we were trees. Who knows?
I think probably tadpoles,
Crazy.
paramecium, whatever.
Maybe a nice little puppy out in one of them.
There you go.
Have you seen dogs become humans later on?
I have not.
So they stay in that.
That's been my experience. I'm not ruling out that they can't, but to me, based on my experience doing this tens of thousands of times over the years, it's a different species. And it may be that they are in like the plant kingdom. I haven't seen a daffodil become a schnauzer, if that's what you're asking. Can it happen? Certainly everything's possible, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because there's different soul groups, right? They say.
Well, soul groups to me are people that are in your zeitgeist. Who are your family members? Who are your friends? Who are your colleagues? You play different roles in different lifetimes. And you know how people as a child and you enjoy them and then you move on. Maybe you move to a different city. Maybe you go to a different school, whatever. And then you're into another group. But everybody that you meet, everybody that takes part in your life is a soulmate. I find that this whole thing about there's only one soulmate that we all have is not true. There are multiples. It's just and different soulmates for different times in our lives.
That's good to know because a lot of people chase that one soulmate, right? And they center their whole dating or whatever friendship around that idea. It's
an excuse to say single.
I love that.
It's a good excuse. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Get out there, be open. You're in a different time in your life than you were before. And yeah, you were injured and all that, but that was part of the learning curve. You know what to look for now.
Yeah. Have you seen common themes around death? Because you probably read a lot of people that recently passed away, right?
I talk to a lot of spirits. I talk to a lot of dead people. Yeah, it's really fun. And they're all pure love.
Really?
And they're funny. So funny, Sean. And normally when a family member or a friend is working with me and they want to talk to, let's say, their grandfather, and they're so distraught, the grandfather will come out with stuff to get us laughing. And it can be anything from, the grandfather saying, remember how when you were 3 and 4, you just wore a tutu all the time, little Susie? That's how I always picture you. And little Susie will start laughing. She'll say, he's right, I did. And they'll come in with things that are specific that they would understand that there's no way I would know this stuff. And perhaps it's something that only my client and their loved one in heaven knows.
That's beautiful.
So that's fun. I do a lot of work with families who have a loved one who's dying. And that's fascinating because I can tell how close to death they are. I can communicate with the dying person's spirit, whether they're able to verbally communicate or not. Let's say, this is 3 days before they pass or 3 weeks or 3 months. There are always 3 questions I ask. Are you ready to go? What do you need? Are you in pain? And they give us just this plethora of answers, especially with the what do you need?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can know to the day, like.
No, but I can tell what phase of transition they're in. I have coined what I call the 12 phases of transition. And it's how we're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as we're transitioning. And so let's say you had a loved one that was transitioning, say in Europe, in another country, I can tell you what phase of transition they're in and how I tell and what I train my graduates to do, my students, is it's the configuration in which the angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones are in. And pet spirits, all pet spirits that the person had in that lifetime show up too, and they're there
Really?
in their room. Even farm animals, which is hilarious.
Whoa.
That happens.
That is funny.
Like I'll see horses and cows and chicks and stuff like that.
Wow.
So not necessarily to the day. I can tell when they're getting very close. So can my graduates. And that's so helpful because people take time off work. They're traveling, some cases, vast distances to be with their loved ones at the end of life. And it's really helpful. Other interesting point about this is university-based research shows that 90% of people see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as they're transitioning. 90%.
That's really high.
So we think grandma's hallucinating when she's talking about seeing her mother who died 90 years ago. Well, no, she's not hallucinating. She's actually seeing her mother and able to communicate with her. And so that's fascinating. A couple of nuances about the 12 phases. May I share them?
Yeah.
First of all, when somebody's in about phase 9, there are the spirit exits through the top of the head. Sean, it looks like a speech bubble in a cartoon or in an illustration. And then angels show up, deceased loved one spirits, pet spirits, all of that. And about phase 9, there are 2 extra angels that show up around 6, but around phase 9, their wings start to move. Now, I'm a Catholic girl, 12 years of Catholic schools. So angels look to me like they look in the paintings in the statuary, right? Because that's what I was taught, how they look. Maybe a purple blob of energy to somebody raised in an indigenous culture in the middle of the Amazon. So anyways, these angels' wings start to move and it creates a vortex. And I can feel an upward pull, similar to going through the car wash at the end, you know, when they turn on the dryer and it's sucking all the water off your car. So I was watching that, and that the spirit evacuates through that vortex and then goes on to heaven. So when I was writing my book, Angelic Attendants, I thought, okay, this reminds me this phenomena of a giant owl. If you've ever seen maybe a documentary on a giant owl, their wings move very slowly and silently. You can almost feel the drag when they move. So I did an internet search on owl wings vortex. Come to find out, Sean, there's this thing called the wingtip vortex that every pilot knows about because it's what causes lift in a bug, in a bird, in a plane, in a jet, in a kite. And if you do an internet search on that, you will find thousands and thousands of aeronautical engineering drawings and articles and information about the wingtip vortex. And I thought, good heavens, I'm watching this in the spirit world affecting something in the human world. I can see it, I can feel it, I can hear it. And there are aeronautical engineering drawings to support it.
Wow.
That was wild. One of the other things that I thought was interesting when I was researching a couple things for my book was there's a prayer said at the end of every Catholic funeral called In Paradisum. And in Latin, it stands for into paradise. And it talks about how the angels and your loved ones will greet you and lead you into paradise. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's what I see happen. So I wanted to find out, where did that prayer originate? And I learned it began as a 5th century Gregorian chant.
Whoa.
So perhaps it took till the 5th century till somebody was well educated enough that they could read and write, and they were writing down what everybody could see. This is my belief at the time. And certainly some of the most learned people were men living in monasteries and synagogues. So I think that's fascinating as well. There's lots of corroboration in historic documents, in literature, in in the research that's being done at the university level now to support all of this, that we're all surrounded. And most people, and certainly many, if not most, hospice workers will tell you, my patient was seeing their deceased whoever, person or pet, animals, horses, chicks, cows, dogs, snakes, whatever. I can describe them to them.
That's crazy.
And it gives them comfort, Sean, because there's lots of information out there about near-death experiences and about the afterlife, and certainly the phases of grief, but not much information about what happens as we're actually dying.
That's true.
And that's what people are afraid of.
There's a lot of fear around death, right?
Exactly.
But it shouldn't be that way based off what you're describing. It sounds pretty beautiful of a process.
Alleviates it. Yeah, it adds a glorious component to usually a heart-wrenching situation. The other interesting thing about this, too, is that the 12 phases of transition happen regardless of how somebody dies. So if somebody dies instantly, like in the case of a homicide or suicide, they go through the 12 phases instantly.
Really?
Remember, time doesn't exist in the spirit world.
Or
if it's very prolonged, like days, weeks, months, even years. There are many times where I'll see a person who's in one of the phases of transition for sometimes a year or more.
Wow.
And they can move around in them.
How long do you see people wait until they choose a next life on average? Like, do people wait a long time usually?
Time doesn't exist in the spirit world. So it can be a nanosecond. It can be a long time in our understanding. And then, of course, there are lots of people that believe that we live many lifetimes concurrently.
Wow.
And that makes my brain want to explode.
Yeah, that sounds complicated.
But it's very, very common. I've heard it. And when I ask spirit, is that the way it works? I get a yes.
Whoa.
But I don't know that we're supposed to try and understand. I think we're supposed to be focused on this lifetime. Now, let's say we're living in the 1950s. Well, our 1950s self is supposed to be focused on that reality because it all comes into the mix, not only for our own spirit, but for all spirits.
Yeah.
Because every experience that we have is a one-time event. Nobody else will ever experience it because nobody else will be us in that time, in that way, with those sets of circumstances. So it's always a one-time event. And then that goes into the collective consciousness. I'm getting real woo-woo on you here.
No, I'm with you. I'm with it. I've heard this stuff before a little bit.
Yeah.
So when someone has a near-death experience, how many phases are they going through? The 12 phases as well?
They're not dying. They're having something that's similar to a spiritual experience, or, you hear about people doing ayahuasca or being in a coma and being revived or something like that. What happens is their vibration raises because they're not at a lower vibration with all their human stuff going on, stress and worrying about this, worrying about that, and just being busy and all of that. So that frees up. That's why those hallucinogenic experiences are so valuable to so many people.
Yeah.
Because it leaves all that lower vibration stuff for a period of time. That's my experience in talking to many, many NDEers. I don't see the phases of transition unless they actually die. So that's how I can tell the difference between the two.
Got it. Have those psychedelics ever called to you personally?
Nah. I don't need them. I mean, raise your vibrational level in a nanosecond. That's what I teach. You get to see all kinds of spiritual stuff. Drugs not needed. Yeah.
No need to hallucinate, right? Yeah, they're pretty intense, some of them.
It's not even hallucinating with the stuff that I teach. You're completely awake. You're completely remembering everything.
Yeah, I like being in control. That's why I don't drink. I don't smoke anymore, too. I used to love cannabis, but I had to cut it out.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was losing control, Cannabis is, I don't know. People either love it or hate it. You
can have a spiritual experience, no drugs needed. Now, having said that, I've had people on my show that are counselors with the psychedelics, and people have amazing breakthroughs.
Yeah, I've seen that.
On the psychedelics. And so again, I think it's all part of the healing equation. And it's whatever a person is led to. If somebody's led to learn how to do woo-woo, that's what I do, which our mutual friend, Sun Ching, taught me that I've always said woo-woo, and he said woo means source in Taoist.
Wow.
In the Taoist philosophy, woo is source. And I said, well, see, I must have known that, but I just didn't, I wasn't aware of it yet.
It's more accepted now with social media, but I'm sure when you were doing it, when you were 33 and in your 40s, you were kind of frowned upon a bit, right?
I didn't really do it with any regularity until the last 6, 7, 8 years, because I was running multiple companies that I founded.
Right.
So when I sold my surgical device manufacturing company, I thought, okay, now what?
Mm.
And then I was led to do this stuff that I'd learned all those years ago. So I did it with family and friends, but not with just,
Yeah.
anybody and everybody.
I just did my tarot cards last night.
You did?
Yeah.
What'd you get? What'd you find?
I got some interesting ones. I have the Grateful Dead deck. I have another deck. Forget which one, but those are always spot on.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Well, it's a tool for
Yeah.
you to help develop your intuitive abilities that you already have, but to recognize them, and it's a validation for you.
Mm.
Tarot cards, pendulums, all that jazz. I've never used any of them, but I certainly know a lot of people that do. I have friends that do, and they're amazingly accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spot on.
I can teach you how to do it without any of that stuff.
Please.
Okay. Our heads are big satellite dishes, and they receive and transmit frequencies.
Mm.
Every spirit has a frequency they keep throughout all of their lifetimes. It's kind of like you're tuning into a radio station. You go to 104.5, classic rock. You go to 92.7, it's country, right? You're tuning your radio station or your satellite TV into a certain frequency. And then attention, intention, another AI acronym. Attention. What's your attention on? You want to talk to your dead grandfather. Intention is you want to ask him these questions. When you think of him, that tunes your satellite dish head to his frequency. You ask him a question or say something to him. He's going to answer you, because when we tune into a spirit, whether we knew him or not is irrelevant. Whether they're dead or alive is irrelevant, because every spirit has a frequency that they keep throughout all their lifetimes. So when I go home, if I want to talk to you telepathically tomorrow, I just think of Sean, I'm connected into you. Opens up a kind of like a two-way radio communication. And then I'll say something, and then you're going to answer me. And it's going to come in like a thought in my head, Sean, but it's instant.
Wow.
Fast as you can snap your fingers. Or before, because remember, time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. So they've already got you, even though your spirit's connected to your body, you've already got what my comment is or question is to you. You're answering me back telepathically. Sometimes it comes in before I've even finished with my statement or question.
Wow.
And that's what trips people up, because they think, oh, that's just my imagination. No, it's not. Time doesn't exist in the spirit world. So you can do this with anybody you want. Who do you want to talk to? In one of my recent classes, well, a couple of fun stories. One was a guy who's a brilliant engineer, and he was working on an algorithm, and he wanted Einstein to help him solve it. It was way above my pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so we brought Einstein in and watched a conversation between Einstein and him, and they solved the equation. And then more recently, I had a Harvard research scientist studying cancer that is working with IV vitamin C, very high doses. And she wanted to talk to Jonas Salk, the vitamin C guy.
Yeah.
So we brought him in, and he came in, and Linus Pauling came in, both of them.
Wow.
And so we, in the class, got to witness this conversation.
That's crazy.
It was, but everybody has access to anybody that's ever lived and anybody that's currently living.
Because there was a lot of geniuses back in the day we could learn from, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of geniuses today we can learn from.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but imagine being able to summon like Albert Einstein or like Nikola Tesla or someone like that.
Yeah, anybody can, whether you know him or not. You can talk to Elvis.
Yeah.
You can talk to George Washington, Napoleon,
Wow.
whoever, Moses.
That's crazy. Some of these really smart people, I heard they used to astral project in their dreams too.
Oh, everybody astral projects in their dreams, because that's the best time for spirit to communicate with us. Because when we sleep, and I tell people that are grieving this a lot, say to your loved one in heaven, hey, meet me in my dreams. Let's meet in Tahiti, or let's meet
I love it.
Let's meet at the Dodgers game or whatever. And our brains rest when we're sleeping. We're not stressed out about getting whatever project at work done or whatever else we're worried about. We reset our frequency level every night when we sleep. I say it goes back to the factory preset frequency.
Yeah.
When we sleep every night, goes back to the spirit frequency. So it's easier for spirit to communicate with us because the vibration is so high. It's kind of like you want to listen to classic rock, but you're on the country station. Well, that's not what's being broadcast on that frequency. So you want to raise your frequency to the level of spirit so it's easier for them to communicate. And that's what I teach. You do it in a nanosecond.
Powerful. So the dream world is linked to the spirit world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I've had deceased ones in my dreams, so that would make sense, right?
And how you know it's a dream versus a visit, Sean, is the visits feel like they're in high def. The colors are more vibrant. The senses are sharpened. You remember it. You know, a lot of dreams we don't remember, but perhaps the hair on the back of your neck or your arms is standing up. That's because that high vibration is coming to meet your vibration. You know, we vibrate more slowly when we're in human form because of the density of the body, right? So your body's going, whoa, what is this? You know, it's a higher frequency, and that's why you get the hair standing on the back of your neck. Kind of a phenomena happening.
Makes sense. Yeah, some dreams feel so vivid, right?
Yeah, those are visits a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I would say.
What about lucid dreams? What causes that?
Attention, intention. You know, you go to bed with your attention is on something. You have an intention of perhaps learning something or communicating with somebody, and then they come in. As soon as you think of somebody, especially somebody who's deceased, their spirit comes immediately in.
Wow.
Immediately. And normally they stand on the right side of the person, and then we just talk to them.
Interesting.
It's kind of like, it's interesting though, too, because it's kind of like the old-fashioned water wells, you know, maybe on a farm where they'll pump the well. I find that we start with a few comments or questions. It's kind of like we're pumping the well, and then they get really chatty.
Get them warmed up.
Yeah, and spirits have ADD, all of them, because they're bebopping around. You know,
They're getting called everywhere.
Well, I mean, as far as the stuff that they say, they may talk about your mom, they may talk about your dog, they may talk about a project you're working on, they may talk about something when you were 2, and it's not in a linear format like what we do as humans. So I joke and say all spirits have ADD.
I could see that. That's so cool.
They're not constrained by our human limitations and beliefs.
Yeah. Julie, I know we got your book here, and you're giving it away for free too, right?
Yeah. Anybody that wants a free copy of Angelic Attendants, What Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next, just go to julieryangift.com, julieryangift.com, and we'll send you a free digital and audiobook version. Please share it with your family and friends, because all of us are going to lose a loved one, and we're going to be in that position at some time. I find that when it's really hard for people when they're losing a loved one, certainly their heart's breaking because of, you know, their loved one's not going to be around, but also it makes us face our own mortality. And so it's really, really wonderful. There are lots of really heartwarming stories that have been validated in there, and it gives people a different perspective. May I tell you a quick story about how it came about?
Yeah, please.
I was with my mentor one day, and when she's doing a healing on me, my deceased loved one's spirits are in the room. And let's say I'm laying on a massage table, and I got a blankie on and a pillow, and I'm all cozy. So my loved ones are lining the sides of the table. And one day, this spirit of a dead pope came in, had Pope hat on, the whole 9 yards. And I said, well, who are you? And he said, I'm Clement. And I said, okay, I never heard of a Pope Clement. And he laughed, and he said, I was number 6. I said, okay, great. How may I help you? Kind of like, why are you here? And he said, you're supposed to teach the world what happens when somebody dies. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm a businesswoman. People will think I'm nuts. He's like, yeah. It's been so bastardized over all the millennia, and people are afraid, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And you know that, because I had already come up with the 12 phases of transition and all that. So I said, yeah. You know, find somebody else. No, thanks. I go to get in my car, Sean, and just for kicks, I did a search on my phone on Pope Clement VI. Come to find out, this guy was in office during the Black Plague.
Whoa.
When 2/3 of Europe died. And he's best known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead. And I thought, God, Ryan, you can't make that up. And so
That's crazy.
He's been prodding me. And it's so funny because he's been around about 10 years now. And he always has his hat on, his Pope hat.
Yeah.
And one time I said to him, Clement, I know who you are after all this time. You really don't need to wear the hat. And he said, yeah, but it looks good, don't you think? They're hilarious. Spirits are hilarious.
Wow. Well, shout out to him. We'll link the book below. Anything else you want to close off with? That was really fun.
Just that everybody can do this. Everybody has the ability. It's just a matter of developing and enhancing it. And you're doing it anyways. You just don't realize it.
We'll link your website below and the book. Thanks for coming on, Julie.
You bet.
That was a blast. Yep. Check her out, guys. See you next time.